Today I'll be installing the Uilas series of LED circuit boards into the Seimitsu PS-14-KN line of buttons. One thing to note about the Uilas series is that they all use the same circuit board. The only difference is that there are different LEDs installed depending on which one you bought, and different color wires corresponding to each color LED. I have the Uilas Flash Edition, so this comes with white and RGB. To begin our installation, we'll have to disassemble the Seimitsu button, first by removing the nut if it's still attached. Now, we will remove the button cap using a small screwdriver. Find the small indentations in the side. Press your screwdriver in and upwards. This will begin to release the button cap. Now you may need to turn to the other side and release it as well, just to get it far up enough until you can finally just grab it with your fingers, like so. Next up, we're going to remove the micro switch. To do this, it requires a sort of pinching and pushing motion. Find the tabs on the top of the micro switch and then push them inwards, pinch them, and push upwards to remove the micro switch. It's a little bit tricky. You might need to turn it around a few times and slowly and gently slide it out of place. Now, before you go ahead and start installing it, we can also grind down the small tabs on the edges. This is completely optional, but I like to do this with my Dremel. All this will do is make it fit in less snugly than before. I kind of like it this way because I find it makes for an easier installation. Again, you do not have to sand this. However, if you don't happen to have power tools, don't fret. A simple nail file will get you through to grind down the tabs just a little bit and make installation easier. One other spot that I found that there was a bit of a tight fit was the small circle that's supposed to go over the micro switch. Now, you can see it fits fine without any sort of modification, but whenever I crammed it all together on one, it kind of was a little tight, so I go ahead and file out the center hole just a little bit as well. It's completely optional, and I just found it to make things slide in just a little bit easier, but again, you don't have to do all this sanding business if you really don't want to. One other optional part of installation is to remove any wires that you don't think you're really going to use. For example, because I plan to use this in a Sparky installation, I do not need the white LEDs, so therefore I can remove the white wires safely. You can either clip or desolder this. Just be sure that whatever colors you plan on using, do not remove the black wire. Now we're going to move into drilling the button. Remember those two indentations we popped out the button from? Yeah, don't drill underneath those. You want to drill underneath the other side so the micro switch will fit in better with the holes. I use a 1/8 inch drill bit attached to my Dremel to drill through here, although any sort of drill with pretty much any sort of drill bit, 1/8 inch or smaller, will get the job done just as well. Now, if you don't have a drill, that's okay. You can do a sort of hackish way to get around this by heating up a screwdriver with a lighter. And this takes a lot longer because it takes a while for the metal to heat up until it'll melt plastic, and your screwdriver starts to smoke and burst into flames or whatever. But anyways, I even tried to heat it up for this long, and on my first attempt it's still not quite hot enough to get it all the way through. So I come back after heating it again for almost a minute this time, and I plunge it through the hole, and there you have it. It's not nearly as clean as the drill hole, but you still have a hole, and you didn't have to buy a drill to do it. But for the sake of my OCD, I'm going to go ahead and drill it through anyways, and besides, that only took half a second. Now with the holes drilled, I'm going to pop back in the micro switch. The only reason I removed it is so that it wouldn't get damaged while drilling. Now, after popping it back into the bottom, You can take a quick look here at this frame to see why I chose to drill under the part that was not under the indentations. You can see there's a little space for the hole. And now, to get the Uila finally installed, I thread the wires through a hole one at a time. I find this works best. Trying to go two at a time just kind of doesn't work out for me, and I spent too long struggling with it, and I just figured, hey, let's go one at a time. Because I have 4 wires, I just split them evenly, 2 per hole. You really don't have to drill 2 holes if you don't think it's necessary. I just kind of like to keep things a little bit even because that's my OCD kicking in. So after struggling for just a little bit to get the wires through the holes, I have the green wire, and now for the blue wire, like so. And here I just kind of use the wires to help pull the LED circuit board into place. To get it into position, I use a screwdriver, but in the end, this is the position that you really want your Uila to be in. You want the sort of straighter edge where the tabs aren't to be under those indentations that we used as a guide for removing the buttons. If you don't have it right, it probably won't make the button snap on whenever you're ready to reinstall everything. But anyways, just takes a little bit of practice to kind of get it into the right form, but once you do it, you will know. Then line up the vertical grooves all together with the indentations and just snap the button right back on. If done correctly, you should be able to press it without any sort of hindrance from the LEDs, and then you have your wires ready to be plugged up and wired into a stick.